Welcome to Inside the Mavs. Kevin Gray, pre- and post-game host for the Dallas Mavericks Radio Network on 97.1 The Freak. Appreciate you joining me on this Inside the Mavs mini-sode as we have some breaking news when it comes to Kyrie Irving, which we'll jump into throughout the course of the show. Appreciate you subscribing to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube and downloading and subscribing to the official Mavericks podcast of 97.1 The Freak, Inside the Mavs, normally with myself and Grant Afseth. He is traveling with the team as the Mavericks got the 12-point win on Friday night over the Portland Trail Blazers. The Mavericks are headed to Memphis to take on the Memphis Grizzlies on Monday before they return home to take on LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. So quite a bit to dive into here on this episode of Inside the Mavs. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. And again, be sure to subscribe to Inside the Mavs and download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts for free on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for free. Make sure you write a review for the podcast and give it a 5-star rating. You can also follow us on Inside the Mavs on Twitter at Inside the Mavs, where you can see show updates, podcast episodes dropping, and everything else there. And again, make sure you follow Grant on Twitter at Grant Afseth. The news, though, for Kyrie Irving is that he has got a right heel contusion after Dwight Powell fell on his right foot during the Portland Trail Blazers game on Friday night in the second quarter. Kyrie Irving leaving the game, did not return and play in the second half. Seth Curry took over for Kyrie Irving in the second half. Irving left the game with 11 points, but as I mentioned, did not return to the game. Shams Charania of The Athletic, Tim McMahon of ESPN reporting that he does have a heel contusion. There's no timetable for his return. The Mavericks making that announcement official through their PR, saying that Kyrie Irving has returned to Dallas to begin treatment on that heel contusion. And again, there's no timetable for his return. I had spoken with the source earlier on in the day who had confirmed that it could have been much worse with respect to what happened to Kyrie Irving on Friday night, and it was, quote, better than it could have been, end quote. So at least on that front, it's good news that there was nothing severe and the Mavericks avoided disaster when it comes to their second best player on this team. Kyrie Irving so far through 17 games, averaging 23 points per game on the season, and the Mavericks are obviously going to miss his scoring, his creativity, his amazing ability to finish at the rim, shot making, and everything else that comes with the Kyrie Irving experience. So that means for the Mavericks, who's going to step up in the time that Kyrie Irving is going to be away? He could be back as soon as Monday. He could be gone for a little bit, depending on how severe the injury is. We don't know the severity, but Tim McMahon saying that he is dealing with some significant pain, and the Mavericks will continue to treat him, obviously, as he tries to get himself back onto the court. For the Mavericks, they're 13-8 to their first 21 games of the season, a team that's number 4 in the NBA in offensive rating, number 23 in the NBA in defensive rating, with a net rating overall that puts them 12th in the league while still being a top 10 pace team in the NBA so far this season. Offensively, this team has been really good. You're getting significant contributions from unexpected sources like Dante Exum, who stuffed the stat sheet on Friday night with 23 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds while providing some really good defense. Derrick Jones Jr. doing the same as well as he continues to knock down wide-open three-point looks that he's getting from guys like Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving with their dribble penetration and their ability to have guys come on them. And then, of course, Doncic and Irving with their passing ability, finding Derrick Jones Jr. for a lot of wide-open shots so far this year. This is despite the fact that Grant Williams has missed the last couple of games as he's been dealing with knee soreness. Josh Green is going to be out an extended period of time as he's dealing with a right elbow strain. So the Mavericks, while yes, 13-8 on the season, dealing with some injuries, now the latest to being Kyrie Irving, as Maxi Kleber still remains out with that small toe dislocation, they're finding ways to win. Well, you say, Kevin, they've also played a significantly easy schedule so far this year, including their last 2 games where they blew out the Jazz by 50 points at the American Airlines Center, 147-97, and then they beat Portland, who was severely shorthanded, as guys like DeAndre Ayton and Malcolm Brogdon did not play for Portland, and they were able to get the 12-point win on the road. And then they faced the Memphis Grizzlies on Monday, who we know is severely shorthanded as well. No John Morant still, no Marcus Smart, no Steven Adams. Desmond Bane has been playing well as of late, but a team that, yes, you should have beaten at the American Airlines Center and didn't, you should be able to beat on the road when it comes to the Grizzlies on Monday. A chance to go 3-0 against three not very good teams to continue to pad your record. And right now, the Mavericks sit third in the West at 13-8. And those contributions that you're getting from Dante Exum, whom one person I talked to said Jason Kidd was extremely high on and wanted to bring into the Mavericks, has provided some really big-time play with not only his ability to knock down some open shots that he's starting to be a little bit more aggressive in taking, but obviously on the defensive end with his ability to get in passing lanes, his length and his size to be able to bother offensive players and really help this Mavericks defense. And while, yes, that continues and will continue to be the talk of this Mavericks team all season long, their ability to get stops down the stretch is what I'm going to be evaluating this team on. This team, while yes, as I mentioned, 23rd in defensive rating so far this year, the expectation I thought I could have for this team coming into the year would be that if they could finish in the top half of the NBA in defensive rating, this team could win 50 games. I don't know if necessarily that's going to happen, but if they could finish maybe in the 16 to 20 range, maybe that's a little bit more realistic given the personnel that they have. And if they can, and more importantly, get stops in clutch time, where so far this season, the Mavericks have been extremely good in clutch time this season, they can be a 45 to 50 win team. Derek Lively II, the rookie out of Duke, has been sensational so far in his rookie campaign, providing shot blocking, rim protection, and deterrence at the rim while being a real lob threat for Luka Doncic in pick and roll, and surprisingly a pretty good passer out of the short roll as well, making some plays for guys that have been open for shots as he continues to be more aggressive in attacking the rim. If that is the case and his growth continues to be there, this is a team that's going to have a lot of different weapons that you're going to have to deal with. And we knew that coming into the season with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. But Tim Hardaway Jr., who was also good against the Portland Trail Blazers, continues his Sixth Man of the Year campaign type of play that he's displayed so far this year, averaging 17, 18 points per game for the Mavericks off the bench. You've got significant firepower in terms of his shot making. The offensive creativity of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, especially once Kyrie Irving gets back to the floor. You're hoping that Grant Williams finds a way to turn things around. As I mentioned, has missed the last couple of games, so he continues to deal with knee soreness. While he started off extremely hot to start the season, shooting nearly 50% from downtown, he's cooled off significantly since then and has really been a non-factor in several games for the Mavericks, which is disappointing knowing the kind of player that he is and what he was brought to Dallas to do, which is provide some physicality, communication, and versatility on the defensive end while being a knockdown three-point shooter to really stretch defenses on the perimeter. He's got to get back to that once he gets on the floor to really provide that dimension that he's capable of, especially as we know that teams are going to continue to double Luka Doncic to try to force the ball out of his hands. It's imperative for these guys to knock down shots while they can, especially with Kyrie Irving being out. But so far through the quarter part of the season, this Mavericks team sits third in the West and can score with any team in the league. The question will be for Jason Kidd and his group, can they defend enough against the good teams in this league to be able to find themselves finishing in the top six of the Western Conference? You've seen so far some of the surprises in the West with teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are right now number 1 and number 2 in the West so far. The Los Angeles Lakers are right there. The Clippers are playing a little bit better ball as of late. The Houston Rockets have been playing well. They got a nice win the other day against the defending champion Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets are obviously there with Nikola Jokic and the defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets. So there's a lot of things that you like about what the Mavericks have done so far this year. They've been able to score. They've been able to be much better in clutch time, which we lamented the fact that they weren't very good in clutch time a year ago. They've been able to get really good contributions from unexpected sources like Derrick Jones Jr., like Dante Exum, and have provided some defense and scoring punch to be able to help things along with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. So now going forward, what is the expectation of this team? Will this team continue to get better on the defensive end? Will the communication, will the rotations, will the ability to develop continuity and chemistry on that end grow, especially with Dereck Lively being the anchor in the middle to be able to help this defense erase maybe some of those mistakes that you may see in terms of perimeter defense? Because for Dereck Lively and the maturity and the growth that he's shown so far, he still has so much more potential to show and to grow in. We've already seen a 20-16-7 game from him against the Oklahoma City Thunder with his ability to finish at the rim. He was a perfect 5 for 5 in the second quarter on Friday night against the Portland Trail Blazers and scoring 10 points in the quarter. There are lovely things that you love about Dereck Lively that you want to continue to see happen throughout the course of the rest of the season. And if he can learn to play without fouling, continue to be better as a much more mature defender as he grows with Tyson Chandler, who continues to work with him on a day-to-day basis, this is a rookie that is a legitimate Rookie of the Year candidate that will help this defense get better as the season goes on. Luka Doncic has been a much more willing defender, getting into passing lanes and being able to steal the basketball to help this team finish in transition. And that's one thing I have loved about watching this team so far this year. As I mentioned, they're a top 10 team in pace so far this season. They're getting up and down in transition. And one thing in particular when it comes to Luka Doncic that I love seeing so far, my man's taking a lot more transition threes and knocking them down. He's shooting over 40% overall from three so far this year, which is obviously a career best for him throughout at this point in his career. So not only is he taking more threes, he's taking a much more variety of three-point shot, whether it be catch and shoot three-pointers, threes in transition, and being able to knock those down at a rate that we literally haven't seen from him throughout the course of his career. That willingness to change and play that type of pace has helped the Mavericks be able to put pressure on defenses, whether it be off of rebounding, which we know that's not something they do great as a team, but when they have the opportunities to, they are able to push pace and be able to not only knock down shots, but able to finish at the rim with guys like Dante Exum, Derrick Jones Jr., and others. Dereck Lively also included in that group as well. So there's a lot of different dimensions that you're seeing from Jason Kidd, who coming into this season wasn't running a lot of plays in training camp as he tried to get this team used to a different pace of play. And you give Luka Doncic for embracing that, and more importantly, his teammates following in his footsteps to be able to embrace a new style of play, which so far has worked out for them this season through the first 21 games. This team is as dangerous as they come because, number one, offensively, they won't be stopped on most nights. You're already getting a guaranteed near 55 points from Luka and Kyrie to begin with, not to mention another 17 to 18 from Tim Hardaway Jr., 10 to 12 more from Dereck Lively, and you're already seeing what kind of offense this team can bring on a night-to-night basis, especially if you're going to continue to get double-figure games from a guy like Derrick Jones Jr., who has been given the green light with more opportunities to take shots and be more aggressive in doing so. And if Dante Exum continues to knock down three-pointers at a more aggressive rate as well, there's not a lot of things that teams can do defensively against the Mavericks to stop them because of the amount of shot making and creativity that Luka and Kyrie provide. But more importantly, when Grant Williams, when Josh Green, and these others come back, they'll be able to knock down shots as well. But the calling card for this team will obviously be on the defensive end. Can they find themselves being much more consistent on that end of the floor? If they can, this will be a team that wins between 45 and 50 games and will solidly be in the top six and not have to worry about the play-in. Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. Can you finish in the top six in the West, guarantee yourself a playoff spot without having to deal with the play-in to be able to then move forward in the West? This should be a playoff team if they stay healthy. And we know throughout the course of an 82-game season, that's always a dicey situation due to the amount of travel and games that this team will continue to play. And every NBA team plays throughout the course of the year. But they've been able to take advantage of a little bit of a weaker schedule, That will change as the month goes on, but when you have the opportunity to stack wins, you need to do it. And so far, the Mavericks have been able to do that to a 13-8 record through 21 games. If I'm assessing a grade for this team so far, I give them a solid B. Obviously, the offense has been spectacular so far this year. They've been really good in clutch time. You're getting significant contributions from Derrick Jones Jr., Dante Exum, Derek Lively as a rookie, and you're hoping that other guys will find a way to get back to where they are, hello Grant Williams, to help out guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. who have been spectacular off the bench so far. The reason why it's a B is because that defense right now at times has been absolutely porous, and you've seen how teams that been able to get to the rim, be able to knock down shots from the outside, even in the 30-0 run that they had against the Oklahoma City Thunder, where the Mavericks saw the Oklahoma City Thunder not make a shot for over 7 minutes, it wasn't like the Thunder weren't getting good looks and they were just not making them. That was the case because you saw as they ended the game, to be able to win it, they were able to start knocking down shots at the end. And you say, Kevin, Oklahoma City is actually pretty good, especially with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as the first-team All-NBA selection this past season. And I get it. Most importantly, though, the Mavericks showed, and they've been showing over recent games, the Lakers, the Clippers, that when they actually get some practice time and put some continuity together, they can defend a little bit. It's about effort and consistency on that end of the floor. And if so, we're looking at a real playoff team, and depending on what they can do consistency-wise on the end of the floor, that's how far they'll be able to go this year. But hey, so far through 21 games, not a lot of complaints. The usual when it comes to their inability to defend, their inability to rebound most of the time as well. But most importantly, they're scoring at a high rate. They're able to win games in clutch time. You're getting what you need to get from Luka and Kyrie. We'll see how long Kyrie Irving is going to be out with this heel contusion. But you're getting really nice contributions from some unexpected sources that you should give Jason Kidd credit for, especially when it comes to Dante Exum. We will see how much further this team can go. But if you're a Mavericks fan, you should be happy with the start. Third in the West after a quarter of the season, not too bad. I know you wanted to win the in-season tournament at all. Maybe, maybe not. But that's beside the point. Mavericks are off to a good start, and you should be proud of the way that they've been able to work through some things, injury-wise and others, that hopefully gives you confidence that this team is headed in the right direction. Again, you can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. Appreciate you joining me on this Inside the Mavs mini-sode here as Kyrie Irving out with a right heel contusion that he suffered on Friday night. We will continue to monitor his timetable in terms of his return and what that looks like. The Mavericks get back on the floor on Monday night when they take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Inside the Mavs with myself and Grant Afseth will be all over it for you. Again, be sure to download and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast for free on iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast for free. Remember, Inside the Mavs is the official Mavericks podcast of 97.1 The Freak. And again, you can join me every single pregame and postgame show on the Dallas Mavericks Radio Network, 97.1 The Freak for Dallas Mavericks basketball. And find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. And subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube as well. Until next time, I'll talk to you later. Peace.